Right, hello there and welcome to another Ninth Age Essence of War battle report on Agoners YouTube. I am your host Remy77077 of course, and different backdrop today. As you can see, I'm here in my painting room. I've got my old model collection over here. I've got loads of paints and paintbrushes and things, but we're talking about the battles today. But yeah, just thought I'd explain this at a different place because I happen to have a camera set up in here. Right, on with the bat rep. Right, so as you can see, this was me playing once again. This is a couple of days ago, so it took a little while to record this, and I am up against the famous, some would say infamous, Lucky Sixes from the Proxy Table Gaming YouTube channel. So I have to take on one of those famous Ninth Age YouTubers. I've watched a lot of this guy, so it was actually really fun to finally get a chance to chat with him and sort of hang out online. I feel like I kind of know him a bit already after watching his channel on YouTube for years now. But yeah, we had this cracking one. It was Thursday night, so let's get into it. We are testing out. This was the battlefield, similar battlefield. I think it's the same one actually you've seen me play before on this one. Lucky Sixes did well. Our host, of course, was Veil of the Ages once again, and this was all up live. So yeah, definitely follow his Twitch channel if you aren't already to catch out when other battles go live. Yeah, Lucky Sixes had the role though to have to deploy first and gets the first turn, and he did choose to play on that side. And you'll notice here we are testing out. This is all playtesting battles, of course, within Tabletop Simulator, as explained before, and we're testing out the Highborn Elf Patrol for Essence of War. So this is one we've not playtested before at all. I'll get more into what they are and how the deployment has gone in a little bit. In fact, we will talk about. Yeah, here we go. Here's what they have. So they've got a mage, and this guy is quite interesting in Essence of War because he has three spells. So yeah, a bit more powerful on the magic front, but you don't get any more dice to potentially cast those spells, and they are quite hard to cast. A couple of these, especially Scorching Salvo, which you've known from previous games. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult. You can't really get lots of spells off potentially, but you have the potential for choosing just the right spell at just the right time with more options there. He is also the general, and he has a high discipline of 9, which a couple of the units will benefit from. So one of them being the citizen archers, who are some pretty standard elfy archers, pretty good elf stats, so high agility if they do fight in melee. Pretty good skills as well, but not particularly strong or particularly resilient, but good discipline, good movement. They only have long bows, which do have a long range, but aren't particularly potent, only strength 3, AP 0 shooting, so not actually more powerful than the goblin bows, but they do go a little bit further, and they are better at hitting. They do hit on threes by default, so yeah, the elvish skills coming through there. They've got some highborn lancers. There's 10 of them, sorry, 5 highborn lancers. So these are very fast, very swift cavalry. Again, great armor, great agility. Not the amazing skills. These aren't the like elite elf cavalry. These are kind of like your standard elf cavalry. They do have lances though, so they're pretty good on the charge. But once if they don't sort of break and kill a lot of their opponents in the first combat, they're probably going to get a little bit stuck because once they don't have that charge bonus again, not particularly high strength or particularly strong at armor penetration. However, there is an elite unit of elves here. These Flame Wardens, look at these guys. Great stats on the offensive skill and defensive skill. Still the same good elfish movement. Very good discipline. Don't even need to worry about the general. Pretty good, oh, well, not great armor, armor 2, so a little bit of armor, really good agility, strength 4, AP 1, so a bit stronger. This is because they're equipped with better weaponry, of course. But here's the real thing, Aegis 4 plus, so this is an unmodifiable special save. So they've always got a 50-50 chance of surviving anything, which is pretty darn good, as you would imagine. So I'm playing the Orcs and Goblins. So yeah, this was distributed to me by Veil of Ages Potatoes. So I'm not going to argue at all with that. They are my favourite army, of course, in the Ninth Age, so I do love this faction. Playing them out in this patrol list, which I do quite enjoy now, actually, so I'm really happy with this one. We've talked about these guys before in another video, but quickly to run them down. Big block of orcs. They've got a lot of guys, so they've got 20 orcs, 20 goblins, 5 goblin raiders. Um, Only a couple of spells on their shaman, but the shaman's pretty good at fighting, unlike the elfish mage, and he does have two very useful spells. Awaken the Beast, particularly useful. Fireball can come in handy as well to give them a bit more range power, and there's also a bit of range on these bows, goblin bows, sorry. So unlike the artwork perhaps here, they actually do shoot these guys. Again, super not particularly powerful, strength 3, armor penetration, shooting. Obviously, you haven't got the speed or the skills or anything like that of the elves, but there is more of them. And Goblin Raiders again have their sort of light lances, a little bit all right in combat, but the main thing they've got is the speed and hopefully some maneuverability to take advantage of that. So we'll get to the full deployment here. This is the overhead view, easiest to show you what is going on here. Lucky Sixes has selected this side of the board, which I do agree with. I do think on this map, even though it is like almost kind of symmetrical, yeah, I think that side has a slight advantage because you've got, especially when you're setting up first and you know you've got that first turn, you've got a little bit more movement to get to the hill potentially, which you can take advantage of. You've got this nice woods in your setup zone. Well, actually, rather the fact it's in front of your setup zone is what's good about it, because on the first turn you can move in there, get in a good position to threaten with an archer unit, and he has done exactly that. So I really like this placement of the archer unit in the wood. Now, looking at these patrols, a lot of this thing again will come down to talking that a lot of this battle can become down to how you decide to set up, and how you obviously move in the early phases can really be critical. So I would be tempted in another setup if these highborn elf archers, I forget, the citizen archers I believe is their correct name, if they'd been set up in the open somewhere I could have a shooting match with my goblins, I might be tempted to do that, because even though they have got better range and better at hitting, I've got a lot more goblins and I've got better armor and things like that as well. So I'd be really and mostly the numbers, that's the big thing. So if they get in a shoot off with these elves, I'd fancy my goblins' chances. But the problem is, once they're in that wood, not really any chance of my goblins doing much to them unless they can get up really close. And by that point, I'd rather be fighting them in melee, because again, the great numbers should probably help me take those guys out. Again, love the positioning of the cavalry here as well. These highborn lancers, ideally positioned to swing round and threaten a flank, because as we said, they're not the most powerful cavalry, these guys. They've only got one attack each. So if they run straight into the front of one of my big blocks, they're probably going to bounce, right? Because they're not. They have to kill a lot to really get through one of these big blocks of infantry, due to the way steadfast rules work in this game, which is something a bit new to me. I'm still getting used to steadfast. Um, so yeah, I kind of like, and he's got his big block of his, well, not huge, but medium-sized block of elite infantry here. These guys with the halberds, the flame wardens. Yeah, and this guy, so the mage has set up by himself. Now I was intrigued by this one actually, because I do have a bit of range threat, as we mentioned. I do have the shaman here who can do his fireball. And I have got some archers. So, and this mage isn't particularly well protected. He's no tougher to damage than these citizen archers. So, I was very intrigued to see that Lucky Six is placed him by himself, because I say I have got some threats, which mean you might not want to do that. We'll see if that has an impact in the battle. I have set up again. I actually thought a heck of a lot about this. Um, so my big problem is this scorching salvo. And given where this mage was, I was pretty certain he's going to run forward into the centre of the map and start trying to pop off scorching salvos and hide behind the hill. And there's probably not a lot I can do about that. I kind of just have to face facts that this scorching salvo is gonna do some damage to me, right? There's not really any way I could avoid it, because of its massive range. And basically my best way of avoiding it really was to get into combat quickly. But one thing I did want to do when this setup like this, I was like, well, if the archers and mage are over here, I'm going to put my raiders right in this corner. So they are going to be out of the battle for a little while, but again, they're really fast, so they can quickly swing round, threaten from up here was my aim. And I just really wanted to keep away from all the shooting power, because a few hits on these guys and they're quickly dwindling numbers, they tend to take panic tests very easily. So, and again, because of the Scorching Salvo, I have put my Orc Shaman General into the unit of Orcs, which isn't necessarily ideal, but it avoids him. So the Scorching Salvo hits every single unit, So if he's on his own, he's then a unit by himself, so he can also get hit. So to mitigate the damage that Scorching Salvo can do is the main reason why the Shaman is in this unit. And that's okay. I'd kind of like to keep him safe, but he is a pretty decent fighter. You know, he can do a bit of damage. He's got 3 attacks, strength 4, and does have Born to Fight. So, he's actually a bit better at fighting than these orcs, but he's a little bit easier to damage. Is only the problem. He doesn't have as much armor as these other orcs do have. Um, and yeah, so my goblin block. So my idea of this setup basically is I want to push forward and try and get into combat quite quickly because I do, despite the fact as I've got some range threats, I feel like the Highborn elves have definitely got more options on the table there, and they're a little bit better at range than I am overall, especially once that salvo starts hitting multiple units. So yeah, I was trying to keep it out of range of perhaps getting a big hit on everything in the first turn. Keep these guys down here. I kind of think so. The fights I want is I want the goblins versus these highborn lancers because I think they can probably take them. It might take them a few turns, but once they successfully take a charge from these highborn lancers, they should. My cat's very excited by this battle report once again. If you can hear him in the background, he's come all the way up to my painting room to check it out. But yeah, if they can get, they should win over time basically, as long as I've got enough goblins left they'll eventually have when they get into combat, they'll have their rank bonuses and things like that. Will eventually force these highborn lancers to take discipline checks. So we're hoping that will eventually enable them to grind them down. Their armor's too high on these guys. I probably can't damage them. So that's my main way of actually getting rid of them is to have a big block of troops, just force them to run away in combat through weight of numbers. The orcs, I kind of want to get a fight against these flame wardens, and then hopefully get these in the flank somewhere. That's kind of my goal. But I can't. I figured well, we'll see how this battle unfolds. But I figured due to the decent setup here that Lucky Sixes has done, I can't really avoid a fight, right? And if I do, if I try and hold back, I'm just going to lose out to Scorching Salvo, damaging all my units, getting them weaker. So I kind of want to get in as fast as possible. But I don't want to get the goblins really fighting these flame wardens. If I have to, they can probably hold up for a turn or two, but they definitely were going to need some support quickly. Whereas one-on-one, they could take on the archers or these highborn lancers. So that's kind of my goal, and we'll see how it plays out. So Lucky Sixes does get the first turn, of course. This is him manoeuvring, so he moves up his highborn lancers around here, and this is this big area effect. He's seeing where he can get his mage to get me a nasty little scorching salvo there. And despite my best efforts, maybe I could have shoved these orcs down a little bit further down here. But again, I put my shaman on this corner to make sure everyone. Well, actually, it's to give more range for these to move forwards and still keep within his 12 inches because these raiders desperately need the discipline from this guy because they're so likely to take a panic test if anything shoots at them or anything hits them with magic. But Discipline 8 is a lot better than Discipline 6. I know it only sounds like a little bit, but the odds are massively better of making a Discipline 8 versus Discipline 6. So yeah, and then the Flame Wardens have moved up and the Archers have moved up a little bit, but they are going to be able to shoot. But they have moved, they will be long range, but because they're in the wood, they won't take cover penalties. So the Mage is moving up to here. A very aggressive maneuver on turn 1, but I like it. Here we go. The Scorching Salvo does go off. I can't remember exactly what the dice were, but pretty decent roll. I think he managed to get off a Truth of Time first, actually, onto his... Yeah, I think he did class a Truth of Time onto these Flame Wardens to start with, but I wasn't too bothered about that. I was trying to stop the Scorching Salvo, but I did not. Or did I? No, I think maybe I did, actually. Yeah, no, I apologise for that. I believe I did stop the Scorching Salvo, but did allow the Truth of Time. So you can see that there. Then the shooting, you can see the shots coming in here from these tricksy archers, trying to shoot my rock-hard goblins. But I believe he maybe only killed one. I got some pretty good armor saves. I think maybe I've lost one goblin there, but they didn't do very much, so I was pretty happy about that. I believe he got some really good to hit rolls, but then really bad on the to damage rolls, which is kind of the story of Lucky Six's game. Lucky Six is rolling for some of this game. But yeah, spoilers, guys. We're going to see some pretty crazy rolling. We're just measuring the distance here. So it was onto my turn already. And this was a possible charge, right? It'll be a 9, I think, on the dice there. Yeah. Oh no, actually no. Sorry, it'd be a really hard charge. So I was like, there's no point taking this one. And I didn't like they'd probably just fluff the charge, wouldn't move forward very much. It was a kind of crazy option, but no, I didn't. That was a bit silly, right? So yeah, need the 12 or 11, something like that. So no charges on turn one. So instead, I move around like this. Now, yeah, I pushed forward with the goblins as much as I possibly could, um, because I really wanted to try and, as I say, I kind of wanted them to get in a fight with these highborn lancers. But if they did get charged by the Flame Wardens, I was okay with that as long as I could get some support to them within a turn or two. So the way the Orcs, I'm not super happy about, but I seem to remember, yeah, the way they've had to wheel round, I had to keep them back a little bit because I wanted to make sure they could see. So I might have to do some silly corner charge or something like that. And also what I'm doing, actually, if you can see the angles back on this shot, I put these are one of the things you can do in Tabletop Simulator. You can change the state of each model and you can show these angles, right? So the reason I'm doing that was actually for my movement phase. That was on my view of the board, and I was working out where I had to make sure that this goblin unit was in the front arc of both of those units. If they double charge me, it doesn't really help them because they're kind of better than me anyway, and it just stops as many elves getting into combat with me. So there's not really any point in elves charging them with both units the way it's set up like this, and the way the stats work out. So I'm not worried about that. And if they do come in, so be it. But I'd rather take this fight with the Highborn Lancers. I kind of want them to come in. Actually, I'm kind of baiting this. Is what I'm hoping. So the reason I pushed them up as far as I could, actually to make the easiest charge possible for these Highborn Lancers, but keep both units in my front arc. The Orcs are here. I needed to keep a vision. So if they pushed up as far as they could to here, there was a chance that the Highborn Lancers could get in there at the front of those, and the Orcs wouldn't be able to see them. But the way I've arranged it like this, I believe I can always get a charge in with the Orcs. Um, and then these guys have swung round to threaten a flank charge, which I'm pretty happy about my positioning of the Raiders here. I am going to risk some long range shots, I believe, from these archers, but I think there was some cover from some of the shots at least and things like that. So, and again, I've kept my shaman. Actually, I'm going to move my shaman in a minute. We'll talk about this. So yeah, so I wheel round like that, pushing up as much as I can. I then remember, yeah, very nice. Lucky Six was very nice to me here because I'd forgotten to switch my shaman over in the movement phase to the other side of the unit, so you could keep within 12 of these. But yeah, you are allowed to shuffle your character around in the front rank of your unit at the end of your movement phase if you're not in combat and things like that. There are other ways you can move around when you're in combat, but you're pretty free to move around within the front rank of the unit. Is the end result of it all in Essence of War. It's just that, yeah, I really needed to make sure that I had a line of sight here, which I'd forgotten. So I did. He did let me go back. I got into the magic phase, had the dice, and then realised I'd forgotten to move my shaman. But Lucky Sixes was very generous. Let me move him over anyway. So there he goes over to that corner. That is to get a cheeky line of sight up the board to the wizard. So I think I cast I cast a fireball first, which onto the wizard, which he dispelled onto his mage, sorry, which he dispelled that, and then I cast a large dice awaken the beast, which was successful on the goblins. So yeah, beastly goblins here. That is again, if I thought if either of those units did come in and charge them, that would give them a little bit better odds of getting it all off. Those are all the dice of all our spells and dispels. So yeah, awaken the beast off on them. Fireball was stopped. But yeah, I'm reasonably happy with my first turn here. So we go to, sorry, Lucky Six's next turn. He declares no charges. And what he does, look at this, it's hard to see because there's not a huge amount of movement, but he wheels around a little bit with his Flame Wardens. Moves back with the Mage though. So I guess he's just trying to make sure he can't get charged. Because again, I was actually thinking about, I think on, yeah, in the previous turn, there was a possible charge. Yeah, the goblins were maybe going to threaten him, so that's why he's ran back with the mage. So that's nice. So yeah, moves back with the mage, moves around a little bit with the flame wardens. The main thing he's doing here actually is getting out of the flank charge from these raiders, so that's pretty smart stuff. Admittedly, the raiders probably won't do a huge amount to these guys, But if they get in the flank, there's a fair chance they will cause them to at least take a break check, which is not great. I mean, you never want to risk unit losing your elite infantry here just to some cheeky goblins biting you in the sides, right? And these guys actually backed off. So yeah, really smart move from Lucky Sixes there. I was kind of disappointed. I was really trying to bait this charge, but maybe I shouldn't have put the shouldn't have put this Awaken the Beast on them to try and bait them even more. But instead, runaway elves, they back off, carefully trotting their horses backwards here. Very, very cheeky, those elven steeds under full control of their elven masters there, backing off. So yeah, and this means I can't really charge anyone. Maybe with the goblins I could go in here, so we'll see what happens. Anyway, we go on to the magic phase, of course. I believe this time he does get off. No, again, he goes for the two spells. So he does get a Know Thine Enemy off onto the Flame Wardens. But again, I was able to stop the Scorching Salvo. So I do wonder, maybe Lucky Six should have been going like more dice into that Scorching Salvo and not trying to get other spells off as well. That might be the only thing, because I think that Scorching Salvo probably would have got all my units there. So yeah, if it had been me, I'd have probably gone, forget about the other spells. Let's get the damage on these guys. But yeah, either that happened. I think I got a pretty good dispel roll though, so I don't think it was entirely foolish choices from Lucky Six. It just like maybe didn't maximize his odds of getting that spell off and allow me to get some dispels. Do get some more shooting though, and I believe plink plink plink. Even though they didn't move this turn, the archers still only managed to kill one more goblin. So these rock hard, tough goblins surviving under the not a weathering amount of fire there, just a minuscule amount of firepower coming in at them really. But every damage does count on these big blocks, because if you can whittle down their ranks, they're now starting to get a little bit more risky if they do get a charge in. So my turn. Yeah, very quickly. So these turns are going thick and fast. We were trying to play this game as quick as possible, but then we did end up stopping for chatting and all that kind of thing. So we weren't super quick. So my turn, right? I had a real think about this. I kind of shuffled my units back and forward, move things over. Oh, sorry, there's a cheeky shot. Pateo loves to set up these elvish snipers in buildings just to get some cool screenshots. So this is the kind of stuff this is what he's doing. We're trying to play this game and he's messing about putting models in buildings. It looks very cool. Just showing off some of the features of Tabletop Simulator here, really. So I decided to move like this. And again, I shuffled forward and backwards, particularly this Orc unit. I had a lot of trouble getting their positioning just right. I originally wanted to push forward really far, but then again, I was like, well, actually, if this Goblin unit gets charged from one of these guys, and he doesn't charge the Orcs, I want to be able to come over with the Orcs to help out the Goblins if the Flame Wardens go into them. Whereas if the Highborn Lancers go into them, I'll probably leave them to it, right? Because I think the Goblins can take them one-on-one. Whereas the Flame Wardens will, they probably don't mow them down in one turn, which is what's good about these guys. But there's a good chance that definitely two rounds of combat, those goblins are going to get melted by these elite elf infantry. They're slowly, their skills will make a big difference in that combat when you look at how the odds and dice and attacks and all that work out. So one is pushed forward with the Orcs, moved back a little bit to make sure they had a flank guys. Again, these have swung round. I had a lot of thoughts. I was kind of, do I move sideways, keep them farther away from these archers? I ended up doing a kind of wheel and then wheel back again. Which the problem is, right? If you go forward, you have to go forwards while you're wheeling. So I kind of inadvertently was pushing closer with these guys, because what you can't do is kind of a wheel forwards and then a shifty backwards. That you kind of have to go in with a wheel movement, or you can move sideways, or you can move straight backwards, as we saw these Elven Highborn Lancers do last turn. You're still quite limited with the movement options you can do with units, and that's to kind of represent full ranks of movement. So you have to kind of think ahead, basically. It's just part of the skills of the game is understanding what you can and can't do in like future movement phases as well as where you're at right now. But again, I kind of went, well, again, I'm worried about these scorching salvos and things like that. Incidentally, by the way, it was a very good decision. Lucky Sixes could have pushed in last turn, but again, I think he knows what I know, which is he's got the shooting advantage, right? So he didn't want to do that. So again, he backed off in the previous turn to instead, it forced me to come. He got extra round of shooting. It didn't do very much, but he did. He kept the distance for an extra turn, even though he had some potential charges. He instead backed off and just wheeled round. The orcs couldn't charge them, of course, because they were at the other side of the hill, couldn't see these flame wardens. Now they boldly move on top of the hill. They can see everything, and that's going to be critical. I ended up, actually, so again, I wanted to get a fight with these goblins, but because he'd backed off, I couldn't get any decent charges in. They maybe could have charged the flame wardens, but as I said, that's the fight I didn't want. They maybe could have declared a charge against this mage, but I was pretty certain that Lucky Sixes would flee that and then leave these goblins in a bad position. And again, didn't want to expose the flanks. If they pushed forward right up here, actually, yeah, I spent a lot of time measuring this. If these had pushed farthest forward they could get to, right, they could have gone another 4 inches. They have not marched, right, to get as close as they could to these highborn lancers, which is what was originally my plan. There was no way to get out of a flank charge from those flame wardens, which would absolutely decimate these goblins, right? And then they'd be able to reform and face my orcs. I was like, I don't want to just lose my goblins to a cheeky flank charge. There's no point in that. So again, instead, plan B was not move up as far as I wanted to, but the advantage is I can now shoot. They have moved, right, but they have got their bows as well. Don't forget about those cheeky goblin bows. And my shaman's on the hill, and these guys come round. So we went to the magic phase after this, and I was pretty happy with the card I pulled. It was a 4 dice to 2, right? So what I could do essentially is put all my 4 dice into one spell, and make sure I get it off, and it'd almost be impossible for Lucky Sixes to stop it with that dice arrangement. So that's not bad. I quite like this phase if you're only going to go try and get one spell off, which I do think is probably the best play most of the time anyway. So my choice was Awaken the Beast, obviously very, very tasty spell at all times, especially if I think he's going to charge me next turn, which I suspect he might. Right, I'm not sure the Flame Wardens want to take on the Orcs. Well, actually, I'm not sure. You see, I'm not sure he does want to charge me. So again, this is all Plan B. I actually put all my dice into Fireball. Surprised myself here because I don't generally rate the Fireball spell, but the Orc Shaman's up on the hill, and he can see the Elvish Mage. And this Elvish Mage is not that tough. So I'm like, hang on a minute, Fireball's really scary for him. That could kill him in one hit. So we do. We roll it all out. I get 3 hits on him, and I get 2 wounds. So splat, splat. He's hooked 2 hit points down. He's only got 1 hit point left. So the finishing blow, I'm hoping, Goblin Archers, they're in short range to him now. Less than 12 inches here. 10 shots, 5s to hit, 4s to damage. He's only got a 6-up save. I only need 1 hit point. And there we go. They do it. Good going, Goblins. So this was never my initial plan. My plan was to try and push forward, marching every turn, get into combat early, not really think about my range attacks here. But actually, due to the way Lucky Sixes had played it, I had to adapt to that and instead went in with the Fireball and the bows and proved in the power of the Goblin bows here. And yeah, that was the thing again about him putting his mage by himself. Did leave him vulnerable to that. Although I asked Lucky Sixes after the game why he did it, and actually what he was going to do on the next turn, right, had that mage not been killed like this, or hadn't even tried it, I don't think he thought I was even going to go for that. But he was going to run the mage round to somewhere over here to do like a chaffing maneuver, essentially, on these orcs. He would have charged in with the flame wardens on the goblins, and then positioned the mage to block either the orcs and potentially even the raiders from coming into the side of them should they not break the goblins in one turn, right? So he was going to use his mage, and even if he'd had 1 hit point left, that would have still been great for him, really. So he was kind of unfortunate, but the odds were he would die with this amount, with the fireball and this amount of archer shots going at him. The odds were not in his favour. He should not survive that amount of missile power, and he did not. So now it was Lucky Six's turn to have to adapt to what had gone on here, actually. So instead, his plan to say he was actually planning to try and get the Flame Wardens into the Goblins, which I like, hold off with the Lancers for another turn, and then chaff with the Wizard, right? Instead, he has to go gung-ho here. Because he's lost his Mage, suddenly the range firepower has flipped, right? So his Scorching Salvo's not done anything, really. And his Archers have not done much. So he has to throw caution to the wind here and decide, right, this is going to be a combat game. I'm going to have to get stuck in. So he does that, declares both charges. I believe this is an auto-in. Maybe it needs a 3 or something. That was a very low roll again. So both charges were pretty good. And actually, as I said at the start of the battle, right, as much as I prefer to be doing the charging, but I'm quite happy with both these fights. That's kind of what I want, and I've positioned both. I positioned these nicely to go into the flank if this fight, if the Orcs survive for a round, and if he didn't charge here, I've positioned the Orcs to come in. So yeah, I really thought this was going quite well for me. I thought, my plans are working how I want them to. These are the fights I want. I mean, I don't. I'd love to be able to kill some of these Flame Wardens before the Orcs have to fight them, but realistically, I can't really avoid them because of the extra range power of the Highborn Elf patrol overall. Like, it's no good me trying to hang back and try and avoid them. I did consider fleeing one of these, but it doesn't really help me. Like, again, it's like, okay, well, I'll flee with the Orcs. I might get a flank charge with the Raiders, but again, they're not likely to really beat them one on one. Oh, there was a panic check, of course, because that mage died. These guys did have to take a panic check last turn, but they've still got good discipline even without the mage being around. So this was the best unit to at least make that panic check, and he did successfully make that one. So losing their general didn't cause too much disarray in the Elvish ranks. But yeah, double charges, both go in. Decided to shuffle them around a little bit. There was a bit of talk about how he shuffled these guys to try and avoid the potential extra raider coming in on the side, but it's nothing, no huge deals going in. So everyone noticeably right. This is the objective zone. We've both managed to arrange all this, so we're all fighting on the objective. So quite good for both of us there. Actually, good plays. Both me and Lucky Sixes both playing like the true experts we are here. Of course, no. We actually built this game up quite a little bit, actually. So I don't know if you follow the Ninth Age scene at all. There's actually the UK Masters tournament happening right now, and there's actually a lot of coverage that Lucky Sixes has been doing of that on his YouTube channel on Proxy Table Gaming. So I'd recommend you check all of that out if you haven't watched any of it. The UK Masters, of course, is the top 16 players in the country right now, or rather over the last year. All the tournaments and things have obviously been online, but they've been able to play that out in the air. They're covering it, they're discussing who the players are, who thinks going to win, what armies they're playing, all that kind of good stuff. You can go onto Proxy Table Gaming to find out all about that. But I pointed out, forget all of those games, right? This is clearly the big game of the week that everyone should have been watching because, and I say, this did kind of live up to the hype. Actually, I was really having a great game, and it was really going quite well. So it goes in with that one. He's got Truth of Time on right now, but unfortunately he's going to lose that as soon as he goes to the magic phase. So before we get into the melee, he's going to lose that Truth of Time. So realistically, the Elvish Mage Right ended up doing nothing. He put one spell down all game and didn't make any impact. So yeah, it just goes to show, even if you've got a good mage, if you don't get the right rolls or don't prioritize the right spells and things, yeah, not very successful magic really from the elves overall in this battle. But has gone in with his charges. I believe the archers, the archers have swung round to get some better. These are getting now, although they've moved, they've gone into close range, so that's kind of a wash. And that's kind of threatening from a raiders. They can't charge them back really. They'd lose anyway. In the front versus archers would absolutely destroy these guys. The only chance they can beat anything really is it. I mean, they could if they charged head on into the highborn lancers, they might do okay. Any other elf unit, they will lose in the front. They have to get in the sides to do any damage, really, these raiders. So yeah, moves up, and then we get into the combat. Does some shooting first, of course. Does try to shoot these raiders at short range now. Did get some pretty unlucky rolls. Alright, I think I rolled some pretty good armor saves. He only got one, which was really useful for me. So I didn't have to take a panic check. It would have been a discipline 8, so odds were in my favour they would stick, but I was really fortunate there. I didn't lose an extra Goblin Raider, but again, the odds were around about average. I think it's a slightly unlucky roll there. Does lose this spell as we go into the melee. Trying to remember exactly how this went down. But yeah, I believe he chose to roll this one first. It doesn't matter too much, I don't think. Goes in with the combat rolls. I won't talk about all of these roll in, but turns out he actually, one thing that matters, right? He can put, because as I said, I didn't really want this shaman. Ideally, I'd want him out of the unit to keep him safe and to keep him maneuverable. But because I went in scared of the scorching salvo, he survived all of that. But now he's having to get stuck in, and these elves hit first, and he put 4 of them trying to attack him, and they did 2 hit points. So he does get to strike back. He's still around, but this Orc Shaman not looking too healthy now. Only 1 hit point left. Perhaps he is not long for this world. And does kill another couple of Orcs. The Orcs do have their Born to Fight on right now, though, so they are a little bit stronger, and the Shaman's a little bit stronger. But I only killed 3, which is not I think that's a little bit disappointing. So, given the say the extra strength, especially the shaman, he's strength 5 this turn, right? So yeah, very kind of meh rolls. Not terrible, but not great. And he's done about average, I think. So yeah, four wounds. But interesting, he went for the shaman, not for the guys, right? Because he could have maybe stripped the rank off if he'd got the 4 wounds. He needed 5, of course, to strip a rank. I believe I lost this. With his charge bonus as well, I lost this combat by 1 or 2 points. But because I've got more ranks than him, I do keep steadfast. So it was a discipline 8 check to stick, and they did. So that was quite fortunate for me. That was just measuring things out. In the fight over here, I think he kills. No. Oh, hang on. Have we gone it? No, we've done it already. Yeah, no, he kills a couple goblins. Yeah, a couple more goblins have gone, but didn't get my flash rank off, as this combat was actually tied, I believe. So I think he killed 2. Yeah, he killed 2 goblins, 1 for the charge, that's 3, but I've got 3 ranks. So didn't even force a break test on those goblins. They would have been steadfast anyway, so would have been discipline 8. But yeah, highborn lancers, this is the thing. If they're going up against a full strength big block, although they're not as vulnerable to actually losing as my goblin raiders are, they're probably not going to do a lot. So I'm quite happy with this. This is kind of what I thought. I reckon I could take a charge from these elf units with both these large blocks, unless I took loads of casualties from things from shooting and magic already. So yeah, in my turn, I'm looking at what to do here. I'm like, can I swing round? But the obvious move is sometimes the best move, which is swing in with these raiders into the flank of these guys. We'd have a little discussion about the post-combat pivot moves you can do. We could have shuffled over, and then he could have shuffled back, and it ended up not making any difference realistically. Everyone was fighting. I wonder actually if there was a way I could have moved my Orc Shaman over here to perhaps reduce the attacks on him in the next round. Something I should consider for another battle there. So maybe a small mistake from me there. Maybe trying to keep my... I couldn't have got him out of combat entirely, but I maybe could have reduced the attacks coming in at him. Although we'll come down to that. There's some interesting rules there actually when it comes to attacking this. So my raiders do get in the flank there. They get 3 of them in, no problem. There's no way to get 4 in due to the way the positioning. And then I had a bit of a decision here. So I go to the magic phase. I do, of course, choose to max dice again. I think I got a low card, so I don't think Lucky Six had a lot of dispelling options. I think I did. I think it was maybe the last one was 3 dice to 2. This was 4 dice to 2. I can't remember which way round it happened, but yeah, I did roll high enough. I don't think he could stop it. And yeah, so I got Awaken the Beast off on these orcs, so they kind of maintained their high strength from the previous round. So I'm really happy about that. So Orc Shaman has done a pretty good job already doing that fireball, doing that Awaken the Beast. Raiders in the flank, right? This is the time to shine. We've got Awaken the Beast on. We've got Raiders in the flank. I pretty much, like, my odds of breaking this block this turn are really quite high. I'm really feeling good, right? So what I do, and I'm even feeling like gung ho. So what I do this combat first, right? Because if I get to pursue, I can force which way they run, and I could force the because I'm in both sides of them. I could choose, do they flee this way if I win, or do they flee this way? And I want them to flee that way, of course. And then both these units can pursue in that direction, and they may be able to join this fight here. And the way it happens is you fight the combats in order, and I can actually potentially get off another round of combat with maybe my orcs or my raiders if they pursue this way, and then get into the side of these guys, and then they get to all fight again. So there's a really nasty little tricks you can do here in the combat phase by how you go. But this does all rely on winning this combat, of course, right? We go to the whole combat roll. That was my Awaken the Beast. Anyway, we go to this big fight. I couldn't use my fireball anyway, so unfortunately I get some absolutely terrible rolls here. So there was I only kill another 1. Yeah, like another 1 or 2 Flame Wardens. He kills off the mage for another hit point, and he kills off another orc for another hit point. Doesn't do any damage to the raiders though, which is pretty good. So it was kind of a bit of a pillow fight here. No one did a lot of damage to each other. One of the reasons was he actually put all his attacks, even though the Orc Shaman only had 1 hit point left, because he's going first on the agility, he has to decide how many attacks he wants to target at that Shaman before he rolls anything. So having the character left on 1 hit point might have been a good move actually to keep him in that fight, because it did shoot, so he did do less damage than he could have done on these orcs. But yeah, absolutely terrible rolling from me here. Really unfortunate. I still won the combat with the flank bonuses, and now we're equal on ranks, by the way, because he's got 1 guy there as well. So I had no additional rank bonus. But with the flank bonus, I think I did win this combat by a point or two. No, but only by 1 point, which was so sad. So he was only testing. These are guys discipline 9, so -1. He was only testing our discipline 8, despite no steadfast. Absolutely gutting round of combat, really, for the Orcs and Goblins. Not a lot I could do about that. You know, I'd positioned him well. I'd got Awaken the Beast off. Sometimes the dice just don't go your way, but that should have been my combat to easily win there. I was hoping they'd be testing on like a really low discipline to actually stay around here, and that basically probably would have won me the game. But yeah, those poor round of attacks. Maybe I can't remember if you got a lot of armor saves. I think it was just some slightly under average rolls really, and then some decent armor saves from Lucky Sixes. Nothing absolutely terrible. So there we go. But we go on to the Goblin fight though, and this went a little bit better for me, I recall. There we go. So no one died. Amazing there. So these guys didn't have their lances anymore, so they're stuck into combat. No one actually, no one managed to kill anyone. So I actually win that combat significantly by that. So I think they had to take on a discipline 6 or 7. Yeah, it would have been 6, I believe. So I think I won by 3. So that was pretty bad, right? So yeah, they did in fact flee. And I chose to pursue, and I missed them by 1 inch, which is really disappointing. I think I was getting cheeky here, and I wasn't really thinking about the fact, right? Lucky Sixes has only got one more turn. All right. This was and I had played out this combat already, so I already knew these guys were going to stick, right? That was going to have to fight another round of combat. So actually, this pursuit was actually a big mistake. I didn't see this until I looked at the bat rep screenshots later. But actually, yeah, I think I'd forgotten that extra turn where Lucky Sixes backed off rather than fighting. But yeah, what I really should have done was actually not pursued with the goblins. Instead, done a reform, and I could have faced this fight here. Right, it would have kept them close, so there was a chance that this fight went badly, that maybe these guys would run away and the goblins would panic and blah 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 blah. But I'm like, Lucky Six only got one more turn. I think I was a little bit worried that these guys wouldn't run far enough to get out of the circle. But that was actually a 9, and I rolled an 8. I did check would I end up moving out of the circle. I was like, the odds of me like pursuing far enough to get outside of this objective were really low. But yeah, a little bit bloodthirsty here. I think I was thinking it was my turn next or something, and I'd be able to like charge them again or charge into the flank of these archers. And I don't really know because it's not really relevant for the objective. I really should have been focusing on what mattered. What was still around was the problem with the flame wardens, and actually slamming these goblins in. It wouldn't be that great because I wouldn't get another flank bonus because I've already got that, right? So, but I would at least get a charge bonus, and I get a bunch more attacks. Maybe they'd do something. They are only goblins, you know, and these flame ones are say pretty tough to damage. But it would give me another bunch of ranks, and maybe he'd start to split some of his attacks off onto them. It becomes a little bit harder for him to win the combat. There is still some logic in keeping them out of that combat though, because should it go badly, I've kind of got this unit of goblins now. And yeah, they are out of the game. Harbour and Lancers are done for, really. But yeah, if I thought about it more, not pursuing was much more of a sensible option than I considered it to be. So on to Lucky Six's turn. And this I saw coming, but there was nothing I could do about it. Again, maybe if I'd held the goblins back, but yeah, I kind of thought this was all going to go pear-shaped now, and it was. So the archers come charging in to the flank of my raiders. So we have got, and I've no way to run away. Of course, you cannot flee, right? So we have now got one mega combat here. 4 units all stuck in. We've both got flank bonuses, so that kind of cancels each other out. He's got an additional charge bonus though. Ranks, you only count the highest ranks, so we're probably going to be a push there. I'm probably going to get 2 ranks. He's probably going to get 2 ranks. But there's a lot more elfish attacks coming here. I do not now have Born to Fight on the orcs. And I do not now have Awaken the Beast either, because I'd lost my Shaman now, and the magic phase are gone. So, oh, sorry, no. Here's the point. I mistakenly removed the Awaken the Beast token that I cast in my last magic phase, but it's actually still around. So, let's go to the big fight that was going to decide things. Yeah, that was his role to get in that charge. Easily got in there. Oh, no, sorry, that wasn't. That was his role to rally these guys. It wasn't particularly relevant, but he did fail to rally them. So the Highborn Lancers were running off, took a dangerous train. So quite a few of them ran through the wood, but no one died. But yeah, they were already out of the game. But yeah, didn't rally them, didn't really matter. But yeah, that was pretty much a rather inglorious running away there for the Lancers. Not the bravest of elves, these guys, but the rest of them, the Flame Wardens, are staying stuck in. So we go into this big combat. One of the good things is I had checked my goblins had pursued just out of panic range. So should this combat go badly wrong, the goblins at least will not be panicking. So how does this combat go down? A lot of hits, a lot of combat resolution, right? But not very much happens. So the big roll, I don't think we have a screenshot of it, but I'd forgotten Awaken the Beast, and I rolled a ton of 3s to damage, and I thought I needed 4s, but then we realised the Awaken the Beast was on. So what happened here, basically, I rolled some amazing armor saves. Only one raider died from all these elves. Amazingly, I won this combat. So on the last turn when I really should have won the combat, right? I did got terrible rolls and lost the combat. This turn, oh sorry, only won by a tiny amount when I should have been a landslide to me. This turn, when Lucky Sixes, the odds were suddenly in his favour, he got rubbish rolls, and I got some pretty decent ones. I think I killed I killed 3 Flame Wardens this turn, which was best I'd done. And I killed an archer as well. So the Raiders managed to kick one of those archers in the face, and unbelievably, again, Lucky Sixes lost this combat. I think only by 1 point, but then he rolled high again, and the archers fled off. This was a disaster, really. So again, crazy stuff happening in this combat, really. Whenever one of us had the advantage, they just rolled so badly that the advantage was not pressed. So we're going to the final turn, my last turn. Everyone's in the objective, right? All I need to do is not run away from this fight here. And I turn around with the goblins. Again, if I'd been facing this way, I could have now charged in and made this a landslide victory for me. So again, little mistake there. But yeah, what happens is, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This turn, again, the advantage is now back to me, right? Because I've got more guys, I've got the flank bonus. But nope. This time, Lucky Sixes rolls hot, wins the combat by 2 points. I think he wipes out an entire another rank of orcs, so I didn't have steadfast either, because that was a disaster for me. So these are on discipline 6, these are on discipline 5, and maybe no, yeah, something 6 and 4, I think. Anyway, either way, basically I was like, well, the odds of making me one of these discipline checks is not too bad when you add it all up. Unfortunately, I failed both of them, and yeah, run away. Everyone flees, and I was like tempting Lucky Six. Come on, Lucky Sixes, you know you want to chase him, right? No, he wasn't foolish enough to fall for that one. You need to keep in the objectives on the last turn. So ends up a 1-1 draw. Very disappointing in that last phase. If I could have just held in this combat, right, would have been all gravy for the Orcs and Goblins. Would have been an easy victory there. But unfortunately, the Flame Wardens. Wow, the power of these guys is very significant. Now, one of the things actually to talk about though. So again, I was pretty happy with that game. It was a really fun game. Honestly, it was back and forth, like really exciting. Like we're having a lot of fun comments. We had guys talking in the chat. Like it was a fantastic game. So yeah, I recommend you do watch some of these games on Twitch if you get the chance, because they can be really actually quite entertaining. I know that like Wargaming Live is a little bit dry at times. But yeah, this definitely wasn't. I felt this was like an absolute hoot the whole way through. But yeah, one of the things we were considering actually was, is the Highborn Elf patrol a little bit too strong? Because if you look at some of the stats and things like that, if you compare it to, say, the Empire of Son style patrol, it's very, very similar, right? They've both got a unit of 10 missile troops, but the elves are maybe a little bit better, but actually a bit worse because they don't have the powerful shooting. And they've both got a unit of elite infantry and a unit of fairly average cavalry. But the elves seem to have better stats, more spells and better stats, better movement, everything, better agility. Across the board, the elves seem to be better. But the Empire Sonnenstahl, the power in their shooting phase, right? If you think about some of the way this would have played out, my raiders, we'll go back a couple of turns. My raiders moving round how they did round the flank, right? Especially early on. I think there was a phase, yeah, there was a phase just back here. Yeah, here. If they had been handguns, right, I'd have been super scared of them getting. I'm sure it would have done more damage because I know the elves are better at hitting. Honestly, Strength 4 AP2 is so much stronger than the Strength 3 shooting. I'd have been really scared of even putting my raiders in this position, right, if those had been handguns. So again, and the wizard would have been able to do the same. Maybe focusing on Scorching Salve would have done even better. again, although these elf cavalry are a little bit better on the charge, once they have to grind on a fight like this, again the Empire Son style cavalry probably would have ended up doing better actually than them in this fight overall than the Highborn Lancers did. So it's surprising, basically, is what I'm saying. Some of the stats that maybe don't seem in the favour of the Empire list when you compare it to the Highborn Elf list. It's yeah, the real difference is the handgunners are surprisingly powerful, as we have seen in one of my previous battle reports, and you don't want to dismiss the power of those handguns in Essence of War, particularly because we've got small units and we don't have a lot of like really tough units that can take the handgunner shots basically. So and just having that threat of something really damaging at long range is what the Empire Sunstar can do that way more than the Elf list can despite their archers. So something to consider. We will be keeping an eye on it, of course. This is why we're playtesting these patrols to make sure they are pretty well balanced. But yeah, that's it from me this time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time.